Let's talk about motivation and feeling motivated and what to do when you feel like you just aren't motivated to reach your goals, or more importantly, to do what it takes to reach your goals. Hello, my name is Eloise. I'm the co-founder of Foster Athletic, and on this channel we chat a lot about losing weight and how to lose weight in a permanent way without dieting. A big thing that I see with a lot of clients, and I've done with myself in the past as well, we'll sit there feeling like we're just not motivated, and that means there must be something wrong, either about what we're doing or the actions we need to take. We feel like if we don't have motivation there automatically, then something is wrong. And so when we feel like that, we then go straight to external sources. We try to look up Instagram pages. We try to watch YouTube videos. We look at people who have the life that we want to have, and we feel like, oh, maybe we'll get motivated. And sometimes we do for a short period of time. Those external sources can give us a little boost of motivation. We get really excited and we're like, yeah, this new program that I'm on, it's gonna be the one, and this is gonna get me the results. But I'm sure you've experienced the other end of the spectrum, which is that same thing that once gave you so much motivation, eventually it wears off and the motivation is nowhere to be found, and you're left just with yourself. And that's when the real work starts. And most of us will never put that real work in because, as I said, when we feel that lack of motivation, we feel like it's time for a new program, or I need to find something else or someone else to boost me up and give me that motivation. And unfortunately, that's why so many people will never reach their goals, because they give up as soon as it gets difficult or as soon as they feel uncomfortable. Look, weight loss in particular is not an overnight thing. It's not a thing that you can do even in 12 weeks. It's a lifelong thing. It's a lifelong journey. Because once you lose the weight, then you've got to figure out how to keep it off. And that is what we're all about here. So I'm going to be talking about motivation, how to deal with it in real life, not just jumping from shiny object to shiny object, chasing motivation all the time. This is just a collection of different ways to look at motivation, different views on motivation that have helped me and other people around me over the years to stay consistent with reaching our goals. The first thing I want to mention is that motivation is active. It's not passive. And that's where a lot of people think that it's something that just comes. It just appears. Today I feel motivated. And sometimes that will happen. But in the majority of cases, we have to take action to create motivation. It's something that's active. We have to actually grab it for ourselves, not just sit there, be passive, and let it come to us. At least if you want consistent results, that's the way to get it. When we take action, we start to build momentum, which is what creates motivation. So one tiny action will lead to us feeling good, and then another tiny action builds on top of it, and eventually, before you know it, you've got a lot of actions built up and you're feeling really good about what you're doing. So the first thing, if you're not feeling motivated, the first way to get that motivation back is to take that first action. Now, when I say a first action, I'm not talking about some massive thing where you go and you go for a 10-kilometer run, or go on a new diet, or start a new exercise program, or join a new gym. It's not about big action. Motivation is actually created through really small actions, like having a glass of water, making a cup of tea. Going for a 5-minute walk is going to help with that action taking. And when you're out there, you probably want to keep going, which is fine too. So I know that small actions doesn't sound very exciting, but that's the truth of how results are created. You know, the results that you have now are a result of the small actions that you've taken over the past few years. And the results that you will have next year are the results of the small actions that you take today and tomorrow and the next day. So the second way to create motivation is to make the next best choice. Making the next best decision is the easiest way you can take action straight away. No matter what's happened in the past 5 minutes, in the past year, in the past week, whatever, you have a choice to make the next best decision right now. And that could be, again, having a glass of water, having a piece of fruit as a snack, or choosing not to have a snack at all. The next best decision is going to be different for everyone, and it's going to be different depending on what situation you're in as well. And the third thing, or the third way to look at motivation, is to focus on the first step instead of the entire staircase. And I've found this has really helped me when it comes to motivation and taking small actions, because I tend to be the type of person who looks at the entire staircase and freaks out about all of the things that I'll have to do or all of the things that could go wrong. And instead, I need to bring myself back to just stepping on that first step. Because usually, while I'm so focused on the whole staircase, I'm yet to actually step onto the first step. So I'm actively sort of sabotaging myself. And I see a lot of people do this as well, where they look at the big picture and they get so overwhelmed that they do absolutely nothing. And that is the quickest way to make sure that you never achieve your goals, is to never take any action. So make sure that you're focusing on that first step, that next best decision, and those small actions that will add up to big results over time. So the fourth thing that I want to mention is that a lot of us will look at the small actions and the small things and will feel like they're not worth it. They're not worth our energy. They're not going to actually elicit any result. And that is very far from the truth. If you can't get yourself to do those small actions, what makes you think that you're going to consistently do big actions? I'm going to start this diet and I'm going to change everything overnight and I'm going to start working out every day, and we go gung-ho for a short amount of time, then we can't manage to stick to it because it's too much change too quickly, and usually the change is not in our best interest. It's not sustainable and it's not necessary. Whereas if we just started building really slowly, we might have found that in that same time period, we would have actually got some quite significant results that we actually get to keep. But instead, we jumped the gun and went to this big thing because it was very exciting and very seductive in that moment, as those diets are. And unfortunately, while we get excited and motivated in the short term, they never work out long term. If they did, you wouldn't be watching this video and you wouldn't be looking for motivation because you'd already have the results that you want. So make sure that you make your first step realistic and make it completely doable. The 24-hour food plan that we get our clients to do is supposed to be a realistic food plan that you can, with 100% certainty, follow through on. Because when we follow through with what we say we're going to do, we build up that inner confidence, and that builds momentum, which is inherent motivation. So make sure that those little steps that you're giving yourself are totally doable for you and where you're at today. So number 5 is a saying that I heard from a guy called Craig Ballantyne, and it is action beats anxiety. This is another way of looking at taking action to create motivation. That idea that so many of us will sit in that feeling of worrying about the future and worrying about, well, what if this happens? What if I can't do this? What if this fails? What if I don't get a result from these small actions? And we sit there in that anxiety and we never actually take action. When we flip that around and when we actually do start taking positive actions, you'll find that that anxiety will disappear because you're creating action, you're making positive changes, you're taking positive steps to create your goals and to bring them into your reality, which is really what it's all about. Your results are created right now. They're not in the future as much as we seem to think that they are. It's the action that you take in this immediate moment right now that will create your future. So there's no point worrying about, well, what's going to happen in the future? What if I don't have results? What if this doesn't work? Because when you sit in that feeling, you actively create that result. So you don't take action and you don't get the results that you want because you're too worried about the future instead of staying in the present moment where results are created. And number 6 is, I like to think of this like a houseplant. Houseplants don't just sprout up even if we don't water them. We water the plants, we give them light, and we don't see them growing in the immediate moment that we give them water. What happens is if we consistently look after them, eventually they bloom into something beautiful. And the same happens with you. If you constantly take those small positive actions, focus on looking after yourself, you're going to find that those results will come for you. But if you stop watering yourself, if you stop those positive actions in the same way that if you stop giving the houseplant water once or twice is fine, but over weeks and months, it will start to go brown and it will start to wilt and it will start to die. And the same thing happens with your goals. They will start to die if you neglect them. And usually it's because, one time we didn't do the thing, so then we feel like, we've ruined it now, and then we'll continue skipping it. Whereas if we didn't water the plant one day, that doesn't mean that we can't come back the next day and give it water and make sure that it doesn't die. That's another way to think about it, where you need to keep giving it water, you need to keep giving it light and giving it life, because those small actions create life. And the last point that I want to chat about is check your story. What's the story you're telling yourself right now about motivation and about your goals and about what's possible for you? Because a lot of the time, something that I've experienced personally, something that I see clients and a lot of other people going through, is the story they tell themselves about the type of person they are. Particularly, we work with a lot of people who haven't seen results in previous diets they've done. They've tried everything and nothing is sustainable. So the story that they have, and this is the same story that I had in the past, was that it's harder for me. I just naturally can't lose weight. I'm just not the type of person who enjoys exercise. I am the type of person who is lazy. I'm the type of person who just never finishes things and never reaches their goals. Take a second to check in on what are the stories you're telling yourself at the moment about what's possible for you. Those stories are not assigned at birth. You were not born being someone who struggles with weight loss. And that can be a hard reality to face, but it is a story that, yes, experience and what's happened to you in your life has created this thing, but you're in control here. You get to choose the story that you decide to tell about yourself right now and moving forward into the future. So make sure it's a story that you like. The stories that we have about ourselves and that identity that we create and carry around is not something that you can just change overnight. So I totally get it, that it's not going to be this thing where, okay, I'm now the type of person who loves exercise and loves my body and I'm just going to go off and do everything perfectly from now on. That is not reality either. It's a thing where you just need to become aware, and slowly over time, by taking small actions, by consciously noticing the story you're telling yourself, choosing to tell yourself a new story, over time, you will eventually become that person and you will live out the story that you give yourself. I really encourage you to sit down for a while and really write out what's the story you're currently telling yourself, and is that serving you? Is that serving the next version of you that you're creating? Because usually we hold on to the past, and the past is not where life is created. Your life is created in the present and now, and you get to choose what the present is going to be like. Just remember that motivation is something that is not found outside of us. It's something that we create internally, and that taking small actions is what is going to keep that motivation and that momentum going, and it's going to help you reach those goals eventually. And one more thing that I do want to add is that No one in the world feels motivated every single day. If you are someone who feels like they're feeling unmotivated more often than not, that is completely okay and actually completely normal. I don't feel like exercising every single day, but I've set myself a minimum baseline and I will do some form of movement every day. And I scale that down and I scale that up depending on how I'm feeling. And I really encourage you to do the same, where you set yourself a minimum baseline for taking some form of action every single day. So on the days where you don't feel like it and everything's gone to shit, you still do something, you still take some action, but that action might look a little bit different than the action you take on the days where you feel amazing and on top of the world and full of energy. As long as you keep doing something every single day, that is how you're going to build slowly over time and make your goals come true, make your goals part of your everyday life. So I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, if it helped you at all, subscribe to make sure that you see all of the next videos that we're releasing. At the moment, we're releasing videos on Wednesdays and Fridays every single week, so make sure you don't miss out on those, and I will see you in the next video.